To me, bowling was always like breaking in pool. It's like, yeah, it's cool to break the balls, but the real cool thing is to play the game. Like, you're just breaking the balls over and over again. It's the same look every time.
Every time.
Pool? Well, it's like bowling.
Yeah.
Bowling, you're just breaking the balls. That's all you're doing. Like, when you're bowling, you got pins. You're just knocking down the pins in the exact same order. It's the same thing every time.
Yeah.
And I know the combinations are different and the way they collide and the way you impact is different, but it's still the same thing. Like, it's a dumb game.
Well, there you have it. Joe Rogan says bowling's a dumb game. What do you think? Let's talk about it. This whole video that Joe starts, he does this podcast of his. I'll leave the link in the description so you can go and look at the whole video, what he talks about. But he starts the video out by talking about people crapping their pants. So this all led to a movie scene in Dumb and Dumber where Jeff Daniels is clinching onto the toilet, crapping himself because Jim Carrey had spiked his tea with a laxative. They go into talking about that, and they confuse that with Kingpin, where he goes on to say this.
But Kingpin, was it a Farrelly Brothers movie? That's one of my all-time favorite comedy movies.
So he loves Kingpin. He's a big Kingpin fan, one of the greatest movies, and I've said it before. I've always believed that that movie is actually bad for bowling. And the reason for it is because of this right here. You have people who watch that movie and they think that's what bowling is. They don't understand the intricacies that go into what bowling truly is. You said it, he said it himself. Bowling's just like pool. You just break the balls over and over again. It's the same thing. He's basically saying that all the lanes are the same. There's 10 pins. All the balls are the same size. How hard is it? All you're doing is throwing a ball down the middle. It's because he doesn't know. He has no idea what actually goes into this game. He has no idea that there's oil on the lane. He has no idea that that oil is changed and moved throughout the game. He doesn't realize that there's, just like in golf, there are traps. There are areas that you don't want to be in on the lane. And he's just calling it like he sees it, which is what a lot of people do. A lot of people in America, they don't understand what bowling is, and that's why this deal with the PBA and Fox and what they're doing with the analytics and showing the ball and everything that's going on is so amazing. At one point, he talks about the other guy, I don't know who the other guy is, but he talks about, you know, oh, I love all these people who they put this big curve on it and they make it whip back really hard and they throw it and it ends up in the gutter. Like, what is, like, you end up with a gutter. Like, I'm just going to take my ball, throw it down the middle, and I'm going to get a strike. You know, it's like, those are the things, like, that's kind of why this game is, it's misconceived, it's misinterpreted of what really happens in this game. So when we're talking about bowling, is it really a sport? I think it's a sport because of the amount of skill it takes to be able to conquer all the things that happen in this sport. With the oil patterns, changing balls, the different cores in the bowling balls. I guarantee, I bet you neither one of those guys realize that the cores inside of bowling balls are different. Neither one of these guys did any research to really truly understand the game, and it's not their fault. They don't care. They don't care about bowling. They just see it for what it is. Just like people who look at golf, that they think it's not a sport. You're just hitting a ball and you're putting it in a hole. That's all they think of. They don't really care. They don't have the in-depth analysis, although he goes on to say this.
When I was like a little kid, I was analyzing bowling.
So you used to analyze bowling, but yet you still think it's a dumb game. Well, my guess is you went in as a kid, you saw people throwing a ball down the lane, knocking pins down, and that's all you thought it was. You had no idea what actually went into it. And that's okay, not your fault. It's fine. I forgive you. I'm sure everybody else forgives you. And I'm sure many people are praising you for this video. And that's fine. That's all good and well. But I think you need to understand the game itself. You need to understand what goes into this sport. It's more than just throwing a ball down the lane at pins, at stationary objects, and just knocking them down. There is technique to it. There's an awful lot of technique. Perfect entry angles, playing lane patterns, you know, just choosing the right ball, making sure you're understanding what people did to the lanes before you got there. It's not just going in, open play, grabbing a ball off the rack and just throwing it down the middle 100 miles an hour. That's not bowling. That's fun, but that's not bowling. So what does everybody else think? What do you guys think? Is bowling a sport? I believe bowling is a sport. It takes strength. It takes stamina. It takes, you get an advantage by getting stronger. You get an advantage by learning true technique. It's just like he says, pool. You need to understand angles and technique when it comes to shooting pool. It's the same type of thing. When it comes to golf, you have to understand that there are barriers, there are traps, there are different types of grass in front of you that makes how you strike the ball completely different with different clubs. We have different clubs, you have different balls. It's the same thing in bowling. You have different balls, you have different lanes, you have different surfaces, different oil patterns, different pins, different kick panels, different flat gutters, different everything in there that make a big difference on what can happen to your score, and it's not just throwing a ball down the middle. So it's amazing to me to see so many types of people judge bowling in this way, but not truly do the research. And it's okay, it's not their fault. But people like me and people who really truly understand need to kind of embrace these guys and get them to understand. And this is what Fox is going to do for the PBA and for bowling as a whole. They're going to help to make people understand that bowling is more than just throwing a ball down the lane. Bowling has an awful lot to it. So go take a look at his link, go take a look at his video, and comment on his video and tell him what you think. And then comment on this video and tell me what you think about bowling. So until next time, guys, we'll see you later.